I am Dr. Kevin Uorvik, the world's first cyborg, and I will see you at the Central Asia Nobel Fest. Don't miss it.
Kevin Uorvik is one of the world's most famous living scientists. He is an emeritus professor at Coventry and Reading universities. Kevin is also or co-author of more than 600 research papers and has written or edited 27 books. Kevin have different research on which he and his team are working on, and he's best known for being the world's first cyborg, or as many people say, the Captain Cyborg. Kevin was born in Coventry, and he was a technical guy enjoying science and fiction, and left school to join British Telecom at the age of 16. This was only a beginning of his long and exciting road.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Mr. Warwick. Great to see you and hear you. I'm very happy that you are here with us. My name is Maksat. Kevin, I was reading your interviews, listening from BBC, from Wired. It's amazing. Thank you for doing all these things for all humankind.
No,
all people.
It's a real shame with the coronavirus thing that you can't have the event live, but it's great that you're going ahead virtually. So.
We will be honored if you can visit us next year in person, and we will be happy to show you the region. And we want to ask you, Kevin, how did you become interested in studying and experiencing symbiosis between machines and humans? And what you most excited to be a cybernetician?
Well, I'm a very practical guy, so I like the theoretical side of science. But for me, actually proving something can happen and will happen is really what excites me. And in this field, cybernetics is all about joining humans and technology together. It's a very new field. It's a very open field. So there's not the strict rules that you perhaps get with other fields like physics and chemistry, that they're well established. So for me, you're really pioneering. You can try things for the first time, and you can't be sure what the results are going to be.
Can you tell us a little, what are you currently working on, and how would you evaluate the state of research and developments in cybernetics?
Presently, one of the projects that really excites me, I'm working with neurosurgeons, so actually interacting with doctors who almost speak a different language to scientists. So it's great to learn from them. But what we're looking at are deep brain stimulators. These are electrodes that go right deep into the center of the person's brain and apply pulses of electrical current to overcome effects like Parkinson's disease or epilepsy, even people who are clinically depressed. But what we're doing is also recording the signals in the person's brain, the electrical activity in the person's brain, feeding it into an artificial intelligence system. And then we can use that data, what's going on in the brain, for all sorts of things. One is to try and classify, to say what type of problem the person has got. Because when you look at things like Parkinson's disease, you think it's all, everybody's got the same thing, but it's not. It's quite different. There are different types of Parkinson's disease. And using artificial intelligence, it can really give you a much deeper understanding of what's going on in the person's brain. And we're getting that sort of information so the surgeons can treat the patient in a very different way. So artificial intelligence in this case, with the technology, the cybernetics, linking into what's going on in the human brain, can help the treatment of people, which for me is fantastic to see, to have a direct effect on people's health.
I was reading about your studies, really amazing how you can give a signal to the brain to stop the tremors.
Yeah, and not only that, but with artificial intelligence, you can predict when tremors are going to start. I mean, this is amazing. The person themselves doesn't know. Suddenly the tremors that you get with Parkinson's disease will start, and the person doesn't know when they're going to start. But with artificial intelligence, you get something like a 20-second, I mean, it's amazing time, a 20-second delay. The AI system will say, hey, tremors are going to start. And then 20 seconds later, they start. Now, this means you can give prior warning to the person, but also for the stimulator, you can just switch it on when it needs to be switched on. So you save a lot of power, but it's really revolutionizing the treatment of Parkinson's disease.
So it can be also implemented to other diseases, how we can predict heart attack, for example.
I think there will be with artificial intelligence. For this, what I'm working on is more neurological problems. So it deals with depression, epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, Tourette's syndrome. I personally believe schizophrenia, which affects an awful lot of people, and families associated with them are affected as well. But I think schizophrenia will, before too long, it just needs a scientist, a youngster who perhaps isn't in the field at the moment, to come along and discover what exactly the signals mean, where in the brain to look. And that will completely change the lives of millions of people around the world. So there's so much to be done for young people. The field is just completely open, exciting, and you can see where there are severe problems affecting us now that will be completely changed. But as you say, in terms of heart problems, treating it with artificial intelligence, I think we'll be able to learn a lot more about what's going on and when the rhythms are not quite right, and getting ideas, perhaps years ahead of time, of when somebody's going to have a more severe problem. So we can start treating it long before it actually happens, the problem.
You started your Cyborg project more than 20 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about the project and where you are now with it?
Yeah, I'm at the big question. I would call it the Jekyll and Hyde point. What I mean by that is, one of the experiments that I did was I had electrodes in my nervous system, linking my nervous system to the internet via a computer. So signals from my brain along my nervous system via the internet. And then my wife helped as part of the experiment. She had electrodes in her nervous system, and we linked our nervous systems together. So we communicated telegraphically for the first time in the world. It was tremendously exciting to be part of something like that. But the next step in that is really the big one, because it involves implants in the brain with two people to communicate between the two people. So this is for communication, direct brain to brain. Now, that's fine. We can do that technically, but what we don't know is what is going to happen to the brains, because brain cells, neurons, are quite difficult to work with because they do what they want to do. And what we would hope is that the brain cells involved would learn to help to communicate, because brain cells like to communicate. That's what brain cells do, is communicate. So if they're given a new chance of communicating, they will take it and go. So this is direct brain to brain communicating by thought, essentially. But we can't be sure it's all going to be positive, because the moment you switch the switch, you're really linking two human brains. It's like one big brain in a way. And we don't really know what the neurons are going to do. Will they be positive and go for the communication?
Are you scared with the result?
Yes, very scared. I mean, that's the beauty of science. You can be very excited about it and think about it in a scientific way. But as I say, like Dr. Jekyll in the fictional story, he took the chemicals and it changed the way his brain worked. But he didn't know beforehand what exactly was going to happen. He thought it might be. And it's really that. It's a Dr. Jekyll moment we've got to. Do we switch the switch? If so, for the people involved, it could be very negative. It could be like Jekyll and Hyde, but it could be extremely positive. And suddenly we have thought communication, which would completely revolutionize how humans interact. One thing you don't know, because if let's say tomorrow we can communicate just by thinking to each other, we've done the science and we can make it happen, but we don't know what exactly is going to happen? Will it be good? Will it be bad? Will it be used for positive things? Will we will no longer use Skype and Facebook because we can think to each other, or will it not be so useful? We just don't know those things. And with science, you come up with a new project and new results, but you just don't know what it's going to do in the community.
Kevin, why you have decided to be the first person to do these things?
Well, I look at it scientifically in a way and say, well, I want to find out if I do this and if I do that, what's going to be the result. Which, I mean, to be honest, I've had 2 operations, surgery, because of the science that I've been doing. The second one was neurosurgeons. It was 2 hours of a neurosurgical operation. But I have to admit that I treated it in a very scientific way. So I was thinking, right, what we're trying to do is this, and I was talking to the doctors, the surgeons about it, and then we're going to do that with the experiments and so on. And I didn't really think, well, it's actually my body that's involved in until the night before the operation for that one. And then I thought, what am I doing here? What's going on? This is 2 hours of surgery. I'm going under. I don't need it for a medical problem. I didn't have any medical problem. It was purely for scientific research. But for me, okay, I had to do it. I had to go through that. And it was interesting in itself. Nobody had had that sort of operation before, and it helped other people later on. So it was interesting to go through that. But I think as a scientist, it's one of those moments. You're there, you're faced, well, I've got to do this in order to do that experiment. And so you can, it sorts out the real scientists from those, the weaklings who aren't prepared to go ahead. I wanted to find out as a scientist.
And you can feel how it's happening by yourself.
Yeah, I was amazed. Part of with the operation going on, so I don't know whether there's still some scars there from the operation. And at one time, the surgeons had opened up my arm, found there's a whole bunch of nerve fibers going down the arm called the median nerves there. And the surgeon got hold of them with some forceps. And it was the most incredible experience I've ever had, because it felt like electricity was shooting through my hand. I don't know, it's like in the cartoons when the cat gets electrocuted and it goes like that. And that's what it felt like. And it was just amazing. I'd never thought really we have electricity running through our bodies, but we do. And in that, it gave me a personal experience of actually feeling it there. I could feel my hand was electrified.
Oh, that's very interesting. Kevin, recently Professor Harari, who wrote the Sapiens best-selling book, he said that human will transform to a new species in future. It will be a symbiosis of human and artificial mechanisms. You also mentioned in one of your interviews, someday we will switch on that machine and we won't be able to switch it off. Do you think humankind will be partly artificial in future? How it can help to humanity, and when do you think it may happen?
The answer is yes, I do, because the human brain is of a limited size, and neurons do operate. I know they're analog, but they operate in a very digital way, in the sense that they either fire or they don't fire, yes, no. So they're very much like computers, to be honest. And artificial intelligence, computers, have lots of advantages. We know they're very different. So linking the two together, which is what we're talking about here, gives distinct advantages. Some of them we can see. Been talking about communicating in a whole new way, like computers communicate in a much more efficient and effective way than humans. Humans, the form of communication that we have is very poor. But there's also other things which we don't know what it's going to do. Computers can understand lots of dimensions, hundreds of dimensions, and we use them for that. The human brain can understand 3 dimensions. That's it. That's the limit. We think of space as being three-dimensional, which of course is not. Space is space. You can understand it in any number of dimensions. And we have problems at the moment traveling to other planets because we can only understand in 3 dimensions. So if we want to get to Neptune, it's going to take us 12 years or something like that to get there because we're thinking in 3D. If we can start to understand the world in a much more complex way, let's say even 10 dimensions, we'll be able to travel to Neptune, just ding, just go there, just like walking through the door and we're there. Because we understand how to look at the complexities of the universe around us in a much more different way. So but we don't know, you know, that's me, very big speculation, but seeing that we are going to have new abilities that completely change us. And if you look at humans as we are now, compared to cyborgs, where your human brain is linked to a machine brain, then the cyborg will have abilities way beyond those of humans. Just communicating by thinking to each other. You know, then you get an ordinary human come into the room and starts talking to you. Oh, what are you doing that? What is this stupid human doing here? They're just communicating in this old-fashioned way that we've left behind. So I really don't know how the cyborgs will treat regular humans. That's a big question. Would they have to put up with them, or would they not have time for them? It's very difficult one to answer. But I know I want to be a cyborg. I don't want to be left behind as an ordinary human.
Yes, and maybe all humans will become cyborgs with artificial hearts, with artificial organs, like.
And you have to start asking, what of the human body is worth keeping? Because a lot of people have problems and die because of physical problems, which realistically what you are is your brain, I believe. And if you can have artificial hearts and livers and every artificial everything, then why do you bother with your human body? Why not just have an artificial one? But we're a long way from that. But again, it's for those youngsters who are into research and looking at new problems and new questions. This is an enormous field. It's like a new continent that's been discovered, and we hardly know anything about what's possible and what's not at the moment.
Kevin, one of the things why we are doing this Nobel Festival, we're trying to get the famous and top scientists to give 4-day lectures for all young scientists and students from Central Asia, from Caucasus, from all this region. And now we are in contact with 100 universities from the region who wish their students to be part of it. It will be absolutely free. So everything will be broadcasted on the website for free, so open, and it will be also in YouTube and in Facebook and in Instagram. So what we're trying to do, we try to give inclusive opportunity to all for science, for education, so they can go and freely watch it. And my final question will be, why did you decide to participate at the Central Asia Nobel Fest Live 2020, and why such events are important for development of the regions, of the country?
I think that the new technology, the sort of things we've been talking about, of linking human brains with artificial brains, it's there for people to investigate and come up with new results and find out what's possible and what's not. The people and countries that do the investigating will be the future important countries in the world. You know, that is the new generation, and things change when you look through history. I'm in England now, and England was a powerful country 200 years ago. Not quite so powerful now. It still does okay, but things change, and so any country can look now. If we do research in this area, we can completely change our standing in the world, and we can dominate in particular areas where at the moment nobody's heard of us. So for youngsters, everything is possible, particularly in that you don't need lots of money to investigate or anything like that. You just need the will to investigate the science. For me, this event was the possibility of talking to youngsters, which is always good. Their minds are much more open and, oh, is this possible? Is that possible? Not so well sort of defined and very difficult to change. But I mean, looking at the program you've got together, it's absolutely fantastic. The range of speakers, the Nobel Prize winners that you've got is great. And some of the discussions I'm looking forward to listening to, because the different people will give different views and opinions, which I think will be exciting for, it's not like there's one, this is how it is. There's different possibilities, and for youngsters to realize, okay, it's not all that defined, it's open, and what I think will be important in how things go forward. So this event, I think the range of people that you've collected together is absolutely fantastic, and the topics you're looking at are so exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good talking to both of you. Nice to see you this morning.